In the last few years, Warface has been no stranger to the introduction of new game mechanics. Aside from the usual weapon additions and the occasional new maps for both PvP and co-op, we have also seen the introduction of a revamped contract system, special seasonal events, and a new battle pass system. However, one specific introduction that has really interested me since the release is the weapon mastery and modification system. This system, not to be confused with attachments, is a way to obtain experience points with certain weapons and armor, which then also unlocks modifications to change or improve their stats. However, upon its release, it was shown that there were some flaws with it, which mainly came down to the randomness of obtaining modifications, the progression taking too long, especially for some older weapons which were included, and some modifications not working properly or being completely broken. Anyone remember the stray sweep mod?
Oh.
Yeah, that was kind of fun, wasn't it? Additionally, you were unable to swap mods out. If you wanted a different one, you had to replace it. This is why I would have multiple versions of the same weapon, just so I could try different combinations. It was therefore obvious that the system had to be revamped. And with the new power season, this has indeed happened. It has removed the randomness and has streamlined progression, making it much easier to level up and modify older weapons, while also giving the newly added options some extra things to unlock, such as their unique attachments, stripes, and skins. The new system has addressed almost all of the issues that were originally present, which makes it much more accessible and rewarding to use. For example, I was able to turn a seemingly average AKS-74U into an incredibly accurate bullet hose, firing well over 1000 RPM, having very little recoil and incredible range. But how can you properly modify these weapons and armor? And what will be the best way to gain experience and modification points? I'm Mr. Xbus, and in this video, we'll be taking an in-depth look at Warface's mastery and modification system. I will explain what you can modify, how you can obtain these modifications, and how you can apply them. After you have an idea of how this game mechanic works, I will also give you some of my personal recommendations which may surprise you as well. So without any more rambling, let's have a look at this interesting and potentially very powerful game mechanic. First off, let's have a look at what you can modify. And as of making this video, you already have plenty of options. In terms of weaponry, there are quite a few weapons for every class you can modify. Except for the set. But nobody cares about this set. And to be honest, that makes me quite sad. Bad jokes aside, you can modify any primary and secondary weapon that used to be in the old vendor system, which, in case you don't know, was a way of unlocking and acquiring armor, weapons and attachments, as well as some selected weapons and a few armor pieces. If a certain weapon or armor piece can be modified, you have a small square next to the weapon icon when looking in your inventory, or if you see a small modification interface when selecting it. Some of the weapons which can be modified include the OTS-14 Groza, Vabarm PSS-10, Uzi Pro, and the Mauser Kar 98K. And as you may have noticed, there is a combination of both older weapons and newer weapons which can be modified. There are more moddable weapons planned for the future, but for now we already have a total of 57 different weapons we can modify, 49 primary and 9 secondary options. Unfortunately, most of these are now unavailable as they were part of the old vendor system, but have now been made unavailable. But to be honest, nearly all of these weapons are now pretty much useless even with these modifications applied, so you're not really missing out on anything. Additionally, the Gamma Vest for every class can also be modified. Now that you may have found the weapons and armor you would like to modify, the next question will simply be, how does it work? Well, the first thing you need to keep in mind when modifying a weapon is that you will need to have a permanent version. If you don't have the weapon permanent, you will still be able to level up the weapon, but not apply mods to it. Another thing you need to keep in mind is that every variant of a weapon is included if it is part of the mastery and modification system. For example, the Calico M955A can be modified, but this also means that its more powerful Winter Camel variant can also be modified. However, if it is a different weapon model, it will not be modifiable. For example, the H&K MP7 can be modified, but the H&K MP7 Pharaoh Special cannot. Lastly, progression is shared across every weapon variant. Everything you do on one version of the weapon can directly carry over to the other, which is the case for both the mastery levels and the modifications you have obtained. Aside from this, Every weapon and armor piece included in the system has its own progression and modifications. The next thing you will have to do is increase the mastery level of the item of choice. Each weapon and armor piece has a maximum level of 40. Every level will give you a reward, like a new modification to use, modification parts, which I will talk about later, and other rewards, like resurrection coins, charms, or even a unique skin for some weapons. You can increase the mastery level in two ways. Either play with the weapon in-game, or by instantly purchasing the remaining levels up to the maximum level, which is proportional to how many you still need. Every game mode in both PvP and PvE will give a fixed amount of mastery experience points, separate from your personal level. The amount of weapon experience is only dependent on how long you have the weapon equipped during the match. For example, if you only have used your pistol for 30% of the time in a match, you also get 30% of the XP for that match. This therefore means that it is independent of anything else, such as the amount of eliminations in the match or how long the match took. However, you will similarly get first win bonus XP, which is particularly useful when you play PvP, as this bonus is usually larger than the base match reward. When you are increasing the mastery level of your items, each level will require you more XP than the previous one. However, every item that was part of the old vendor system will level up incredibly fast. They level up about 5 times as fast as the new moddable weapons. So one run of Swarm is enough to immediately go from level 1 to level 15 with these items. However, the newer additions will take some time to level up, especially from level 30, where it could take a few runs of Blackwood just to get one level on it. Speaking of which, the best way you can level up your weapons and armor is by playing Special Operations, of which Blackwood and Swarm are the most efficient in giving Mastery XP. Blackwood is technically the faster option, and is also much better if you're leveling up snipers, but Swarm only requires 3 players, and won't lose you experience points during the match, unlike Blackwood, where entering the set shares will lose you Mastery XP, because you won't have your moddable weapons and armor equipped. Aside from this, the best way to level up weapons for PvP is by obtaining the previously mentioned first win bonuses. Free for all and bag and tag always give a win, so these can easily give you a good amount every day. You can also go for the other bonuses, although you may want to bring a friend or two, as you will obviously need to win them in order to get the bonus. One more thing to mention about the mastery levels is that there is a mastery point booster in the game which boosts progression by 50%. However, at the time of making this video, you are unable to purchase it and it has only rarely been available as a reward. If you manage to get your hands on it, you will be able to significantly speed up your progress for a limited amount of time. Now that we know how the whole weapon and armor mastery system works, and have gained some levels, we can start modifying them. Every weapon can have up to 3 modifications equipped at the same time. 1 from the beginning, 2 from level 15, and 3 from level 30. Every mod also has its own unlock level. As soon as you unlock it, you can immediately equip it, with the exception of unique mods, which we will see later. Every weapon has its own set of mods, but most of these can be found on every weapon or armor piece. For example, all weapons will have a damage, rate of fire, and range mod, whereas armor has modifications like extra armor, crouch speed, or movement speed. There are also mods which are equipable on both weapons and armor, like reload speed, sprint speed, and switch speed. Every standard mod has 5 rarities, which all have a bigger impact than the previous one. The levels from low to high are common, rare, ultra rare, legendary, and elite. Some weapons also have unique mods, which are exclusive to that weapon. These also have the elite rarity and are a high level unlock, but they can have a huge impact on the weapon or armor piece. For example, the AK-47 has a mod which gives it a lot more RPM and reduces recoil at the cost of damage, while the other does the exact opposite, significantly increasing damage and range at the cost of a reduced rate of fire. However, there are 2 limitations to equipping mods on your weapon. Number 1. Every mod can only be equipped once per weapon. For example, if you have 3 mod slots, they can only contain 1 mod type each. You can equip a damage and a rate of fire mod, but you can then not add an additional second damage mod. Number 2. You can only have 1 unique mod equipped at the same time. Although the AK-47 has 2 unique mods, if I try to equip the other, it forces me to replace it with the one it already has. This applies to any weapon with more than 1 unique mod. Another thing to keep in mind is that some modifications have a drawback to them. For example, Most of the new moddable weapons have modifications which improve one aspect of the weapon while making another worse. If we look at the AK-47 again, increasing the RPM and damage comes with an increase in recoil, although the benefit pretty much always outweighs the cost here. If you've found the mods that you would like to use, it's time to unlock and upgrade them. But there is something you will need in order to upgrade the standard mods and unlock the unique mods: components. This blue currency is key in upgrading your weapons and being able to acquire more powerful versions of your mods or completely transform your weapons or armor using the aforementioned unique mods. Upgrading a standard mod will cost you more for every subsequent level, but unique mods are a one-time purchase as they have no upgrade options. The cost of upgrading depends on whether the item had been part of the old vendor system or not. If it does, it will cost you 10 for rare, 50 for ultra rare, 100 for legendary, and 200 for elite. But you have to get these upgrades step by step, so in total it will cost you 360 mod points to go from common all the way to elite. Any unique mods, which for vendor items only exist on vests, will cost you 300 components. If you want to upgrade or unlock modifications for the newer items though, all prices are 10 times higher. It will thus cost you 100, 500, 1000 and 2000 components for the regular mod upgrades, totaling at 3600 mod points from common to elite. The unique mods will also cost 10 times more, at 3000 components. Also, for some reason the AT308 and Gepard Lynx have the same cost as the newer weapons despite being part of the old vendor system. But this is likely a bug. But now the question becomes, how can we obtain these components? And for this you have a few options. The first way is by increasing your mastery level on any item, as most levels award components. These will not give you a large amount, but it is a nice bonus for when you level up your weapons. Number 2 is by completing contracts. There are 2 of them which have a cooldown of 20 hours and give 150 and 250 components for a total of 400 per day. The first contract is PvP only and has some simple objectives, like playing a few PvP matches or dealing damage in a specific game mode. The second one can also be done in PvE, albeit with some more complex objectives, like getting headshots from the hip with certain weapon types, or giving a set amount of armor and health to teammates. These contracts are the best and most consistent way to get a daily amount of modification components. The last way you can get them is through events. The new Power Battle Pass has a few levels where it will reward you with components once you reach them. This is a good way to earn some bonus components, as you can get up to a whopping 1500 of them on one of the final levels. Additionally, some limited time events are also a source of modification points. For example, with the recent Grounds of Horror Halloween event, where they can be bought with the special event currency. Now that you should have a good idea on how the modification system works, and if you do, don't forget to subscribe and like the video so you may see more of these coming, we can take a look at some of my personal recommendations on what you could start out with using this mod system. First off, since some of the older weapons are now compatible with the new modification system, I would highly recommend getting the AK-47, Vabarm PSS-10, SR2 Verisk, M40A5 and Desert Eagle, as these are completely free to get and can be modified to become incredibly powerful weapons. The AK-47 and Vabarm PSS-10 are particularly good as they are also easily usable without modifications, so it will be much easier to increase their mastery levels. For the AK-47, if you manage to get the damage and rate of fire mods, you can already create a weapon that can easily compete with the current top tier options. The PSS-10 will also become a very powerful choice once you increase its damage and accuracy, the latter in particular helping you take out components from some ridiculous distances as you can give it up to 40% more accuracy. Secondly, pretty much all of the new moddable weapons are a good choice as well, whether it will be the AKS-74U, OTS-14 Groza or Makarov pistol. Their solid base stats combined with the right mods can turn these weapons into some of the best in the game. But lastly and most importantly, as the vendor weapons and armor are very easy to level up and cheap to modify, it wouldn't be a bad idea to invest into these as well. In terms of weapons, the Uzi Pro and SAP-6 are good choices to start with. The Uzi Pro can be turned into a free-to-play version of the SAR 109T specs, while the SAP 6 could potentially be a one-hit machine thanks to its high raw damage and good accuracy, which can be further amplified with the right modifications. I would highly recommend starting with these, as they will allow you to easily explore this new weapon mastery and modification system without having to spend too much time increasing their mastery level or grinding components to upgrade your mods. But have you been using the modification system yet? If so, what do you think about it? Or maybe you have some questions about it, or you would like to see a specific modifiable weapon or armor piece checked out. Let me know in the comments or on my Discord server, and maybe you will see them being turned into a video like this one. I hope you've enjoyed and learned something new from this video. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.